Welcome to Business Chats with Debbie, where we talk big stories from small businesses. I'm your host, Debbie Warburton, and today I'm joined from Paul from Osprey Health. I've written it down, Health and Safety Services.
That's right. Hello, Debbie. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I thought I'd better write it down because it's a bit of a mouthful. I thought I'll just mess it up. You've got your own health and safety business, and I should imagine that with everything that's going on with the current climate, health and safety is the thing that people don't want to pay for, and it's the last thing on people's minds anyway, really.
Yeah.
And I just want to have a chat really about what people have got to do, how many employees technically you've got to have before you need to look at hiring you for your services, and what can go wrong, because most people close the door after the horse is bolted and then it's too late to do anything, and you're in the realms of fines and possibly death. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. That's the worst case scenario.
If things go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the worst case scenario. So basically, the legal stance is that every employer needs to be doing health and safety. However, you need to formalize your arrangements when you're employing 5 or more. Mm-hmm. So you still need to have a policy and your risk assessments and all the arrangements in place if you employ less than 5. But once you hit the threshold of having 5 employees, you then formally have to record all these aspects of your health and safety management system. And if you fail to do that, it is very easy for a business to be safe.
Yeah, and it's not that expensive either. People think it's really expensive, but it's not.
It really isn't. But it's easy to keep safe, and that's the mistake a lot of businesses make. They're saying, well, we don't have any accidents, we haven't had any injuries, and that's all very well. But when it comes to health and safety, there's 2 elements to this. There's the keeping your people safe and healthy bit, and then there's also the part that regards compliance. And it's the compliance part that's usually easy to fall foul of.
Yeah.
Because although you might be keeping your people safe and healthy, you might not be fulfilling the requirements that are placed on you as an employer under the law.
Yeah.
And that's where my services come in, because I can help you set up the systems and put together the policies and procedures and help you with risk assessment and train your staff to help you meet those compliance requirements.
Yeah.
Because you aren't having accidents, and it doesn't mean that you're compliant, and that's the trick, really.
You've just been really lucky.
Yes, exactly. And is it a case of you're safe, or is it a case of you being lucky? And being lucky is not going to protect you when things go wrong. No. So you do need to do all your compliance requirements and protect yourself for when things go wrong. Because when things do go wrong, it could just be that a staff member becomes injured and then a compensation claim arises. Yeah. But it can be as serious as there being a fatality. Yeah. And that is business destroying kind of events in your business. On a less grand scale, you could have an enforcement visit. If you have an enforcement officer come in, be it an environmental health officer or someone from the HSE, and just from their intervention, it could cost you money.
Yeah.
We're not even talking
close you down.
Yeah, we're not even talking prosecution. We're just talking about coming in and having to intervene. The current cost is £163 an hour if they come in and they have to take intervention action. And that intervention action covers everything from their time on site to writing up the reports to dealing with you. And it can become quite expensive. Yeah, especially if they have to call in specialists to assist. And that can run into thousands of pounds. Yeah. And we're not talking about being fined here. We're just talking about fees for intervention.
They come in and they've got everything that you've written up and everything, they have a quick look through it, everything's compliant, they go away happy.
Absolutely. So the more health and safety compliance stuff you do, it mitigates and minimizes the chances of an intervention being required.
Yeah.
The reality is, if they look hard enough, they will find something in any business.
Yeah.
But the idea is about doing as much as you can within the realms of reasonable practicability to be compliant as you can and protect your people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the business that we're in.
It is, and it's quite it's something people overlook. Do you know what I mean? They don't realise. Do you know what I mean? We're below the 5 limit, but I do need to get you in to have a look at our building anyway and just make sure that we are compliant. But it's people don't realise that over 5, and most businesses are over 5 people,
Absolutely.
that they do have to comply.
Yeah.
Yes, they should comply, but they don't.
Yeah.
And it's not until something goes wrong, and you've got the health and safety executive breathe down your neck, or they come in and close your business down, that's like, oh, yeah, having Paul down for a couple of hours to go through and everything can report up would have been a better option.
Exactly. I mean, and I always, I work on the premise that you can't manage what you don't know you've got, or if you don't know what you should be managing. And that's usually where the issue arises, because people aren't aware of what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And it's not until you sit down with someone that knows what they're talking about, be it an accountant or a health and safety professional. If you don't know the stuff, you need to get a professional in to help you with that. And the health and safety compliance requirement is even placed upon self-employed, which is, you don't need to have all the formal arrangements in place as a self-employed person, but you certainly need to have you need to be having risk assessments and things like that to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Because one of the basic requirements of the Health and Safety at Work Act is for employees not to do anything that would affect their own health and safety.
Yeah.
And if you're a self-employed person, then it's your own health and safety that you need to be looking after, and making sure that you don't affect the health or safety of anyone else by your actions. So it does affect everybody. It's just how much involvement is required from...
And how much paperwork needs.
And
all
how much you need to be doing.
Yeah, dotting the I's and crossing the T's.
Yeah, absolutely.
To protect yourself, your business and your employees.
Yes, and it can. I mean, there are multiple case studies of something going wrong from a health and safety perspective that's absolutely killed a business. Ask yourself a question. Can you give £20,000 away? Your business, can it afford 20,000?
You look at the news and you can read the horror stories of where it's gone completely and utterly wrong, and you're thinking, well, do you know what I mean? These businesses are dealing with dangerous pieces of plant and machinery. How has this happened in the first place? Well, obviously there's been a lapse of health and safety if this accident's been allowed to happen in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes businesses can go on for years and years without something going wrong and be horrendously, negligently, grossly, inconsiderate of the health and safety of their employees, and get away with it and never ever have something go wrong. But it can, like I was saying, for your average size business, you can't afford just to give 20,000, let alone 100,000 away on fines and dealing with legal costs. It can be horrendously expensive if something goes wrong. Never mind the whole moral side of things, where if you have a staff member whose life is permanently changed because of an injury, that they get at work. People forget that side of it. Keeping your staff safe, not having them their health affected by their work. Whether it's breathing in asbestos dust,
and it's not just them; it's people who are around them. If an accident happens, it's the trauma they go through. So it's a big knock-on effect right through the whole business.
It's not just the person who's being injured. It's the workforce, it's the families. It's the massive impact. It's so easy, and it's not a difficult thing to get the health and safety sorted out and organised. It just takes a little step and in the right direction. Make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Compliance is what you want to be going for. Making sure you're covering yourself and protecting your people.
And is it you come in, you do your complaint? Is there a time limit on when that's got to be reviewed? How many years do you need to look at it again?
Absolutely. The beautiful thing in health and safety is that it's very rare that the legislation will give a specific date. So they have a very lovely word in legislation, and that word is periodic. So
so it could be 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years.
So the approach on how often one needs to review your risk assessments and policies and procedures and all your arrangements will be dependent on your risk profile. So higher risk businesses will obviously review their procedures and what they're doing in their risk assessments more often than the lower risk ones. And if anything changes in the business, that will call for an update or a review. To make sure that you stay current and up to date. But it's periodic is a lovely thing, because it's a question that always arises: how often? And periodic does not mean 1 year, 5 years. It's period.
Yeah, it's whatever applies to your business and how risk averse your business is.
Absolutely. And given that most businesses run on annual cycles, to simplify things, it's much easier to do reviews at least on an annual basis, because it just runs in line with everything else in your business, rather than trying to remember what we need to be doing annually, what we need to be doing biannually, 5 yearly. Just run them all annually. The more often you do it, the more current your risk assessments and your procedures are. It's one of those things that becomes part of the business, integral to the operation of your business. And that's what health and safety should be. An integral part of your business. It shouldn't be a chore.
It should be something that you do on a periodic basis.
Yes, absolutely. It should be built into your business processes. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. I know it's so if you're listening or watching this podcast and you think, I really do need somebody to look at my health and safety, then this is the guy you need to speak to. So it's Osprey Health and Safety Services. You can Google him, you can find his contact details. Even if it's just for a chat, say, Paul, do I really need to do this? And which the answer is most probably going to be yes. Then contact him, give him a call, email him, and get him out to make sure that you are compliant and you don't fall foul of the law. So thank you very much for joining us today, and I will see you on my next podcast. Thank you. Bye-bye.